It works.
Alanna, can I ask a question?
Yes, definitely.
Occupational therapist. What exactly is that?
I know. Nobody knows what it is. That's a very good question. So pretty much as an occupational therapist, I help people do whatever it is that they need to do over the course of the day. So working with all different age groups, anything that you need to get done and you find challenging, then I can come in and either change the environment or change how you approach the task or teach you skills to do the task more easily.
Okay.
So it varies. So I could work with kids and help them learn how to hold a pencil correctly. If somebody's had a stroke and they need to modify things in the kitchen to be able to still cook for themselves. Yeah, it's kind of, it's a very broad career choice, I know.
So it's their physical presence that you help with.
The physical and the cognitive as well. So for some things, it's the mental adjustments that you need to be making. So if your memory's going, then writing sticky notes on the fridge, for example.
Okay.
Hi. No.
Okay, I'm going to mute Bernie. There we go.
All these other people are on daylight saving time.
Yeah.
They can always jump on, right?
Yeah, they can join in whenever they're ready. So maybe we should go ahead and start the presentation. I'm going to mute everybody except for you, Alanna and Rachel. And especially if more people come in, then keep them from, kind of accidentally disrupting things. So I'm muting everyone else. So I have also given Rachel co-host. So Rachel, you're going to be the only one that's doing presentation. Alanna, I guess you don't have anything set up in your car.
No.
Okay.
We work together on the PowerPoint, so we're set.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to mute and go ahead.
All right, so thank you for having us come, and Alanna, thank you very much for sharing a little bit about what you do. I do know that people do ask a lot about what OTs do, also what a dietitian really does. People aren't really clear what a dietitian does as well, and I work with people as well in helping them optimize their health through nutrition, but more on a we have dietitians have medical training, so we help people who have medical conditions or other issues that are preventing them from obtaining really good nutrition. Did you want to? Was there anything else that you wanted to add about what an OT does, like in the systems?
I think just for both of us, what we come is we both have the assessment and interventions that we provide are both evidence-based. So we're both science-based. It doesn't go with fads. It doesn't change. I mean, it changes, new evidence comes out all the time, but it is more, we have a clinical reasoning that we provide that kind of sets us apart as healthcare professionals, right?
Yeah,
I think both of us.
That's correct. Yeah, we're just not like flailing in the dark thinking, oh, maybe this will help or maybe this will help. We are basing our interventions on what we know works for most people, and it's so hopefully we're more effective that way. And when I thought about when we started talking about this presentation, me and Alanna, what really struck me and that we agreed upon is that you just notice that some people are just really good at taking care of themselves, and they seem to know almost intuitively what they need to do to stay healthy. And I like to call these people the masters. And then you compare them with some people who are really struggling and they don't seem to know what to do and they need a lot of help, or they've just kind of fallen into patterns that are just really almost inescapable. And what we've learned over time is that we can learn a lot from our clients. We learn a lot from our clients, and me and Alanna, we bring 14 years of experience working with people who are older and helping them, with their nutrition and their mobility and their cognition. So we're really,
and I think,
mm-hmm.
Sorry, and then one thing that we both bring is that we worked actually both together. We worked in community, so home care, and we both have also worked in long-term care. So kind of seeing the differences and the kind of the journey that people go on, whether they choose to age in a home or move to assisted or long-term care. So it's kind of an interesting perspective that we've both been able to acquire.
Yeah, and it's such a rewarding career, isn't it, Alanna?
That it is.
Yeah. So I'll go on to the next slide here. Oh boy, I guess maybe I need to use my mouse. Ah, it went backwards.
It's funny because I can't even see your screen, Rachel. I don't know if everybody else can or not.
Oh, can anybody see the screen?
Oh, you know what? There it is. Sorry.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Okay, good.
I'm on my phone, so I had to scroll through a few times.
Yeah. So, first thing, I always like to think about, when I'm working with people, why would you even want to change your eating habits or any other habits? Like, why? What are the benefits to you of having an active lifestyle and healthy eating? And our focus is really on preventing falls and injury. And we want to talk a little bit about, the benefits of having good nutrition and plans in place for an active lifestyle.
And I think in some ways we're preaching to the choir, because obviously with PGOSA, you see the value of physical exercise. And as you get older, it's important for that the dynamic balance, so that if you're going to feel like you're going to fall, you can catch yourself because you've already been using those muscles regularly. And you've maintained your range of motion, so how well you can move your body. Oftentimes this is when you see people having a harder time getting dressed, is the first kind of thing that we often see, or reaching the top cupboard in the kitchen, where it's like, oh, that used to be a little bit easier than it is now. So that's when, if you're maintaining your strength and your stretches, then you can see the benefit for your everyday life, really, and for fall prevention, like you're saying, Rachel.
Well, and one of the biggest benefits is just being able to stay in place a lot longer, being able to stay in your own home and not having to depend on others so like too early on in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
the things that are important to you.
Yes, and I think with any intervention, the most important thing is to figure out what your personal why is. Everybody's why is a little different. It might be like having enough energy to play with the grandchildren, or be able to continue doing a sport or hobby that you love to do. So some of these things, when we think about how important things are to ourselves, these are things to consider.
And often that aligns with the values, right? And it's where you can't really compare to anybody else, because their values might be different. So is your day-to-day life, is that matching what your values are?
Yeah, it's super personal, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. So I'm going to go to the next slide. So the secrets to the masters. So I was talking a little bit about this in the intro, about how, I was thinking, Alanna, how maybe they think we're the masters, and that's not at all what I'm thinking. Like, I always think about how much people bring their own knowledge and skills into their own lives. And I really feel that people are their own experts in health. And so I always ask, when I see someone who's really remarkable in my practice, I always ask them, what's your secret?
Yeah.
And so I've been collecting all these secrets from the masters that I have come across during my travels as a dietitian. Have you figured out any of the secrets from the masters yet?
There's been, well, I mean, especially working in long-term care, when we're working with people that might be in their 90s or even hundreds, you can see how they manage, what certain things that they all did. One of the ones was optimism. So just kind of looking
Yes.
for all the positive things in life. And then it's also, I think a lot of them had a routine. And I think this is going back to what we talked about, the values, and then is it matching your day-to-day life, is if you have a routine in place. I mean,
Yes.
TV is great for an hour here, an hour there, but if
Mhm.
you're basing your day around the news, I think somebody I know had done that, and they realized themselves, like, yeah, I need to watch less TV and start doing things that bring more fulfillment to the everyday
And
thing. So prioritizing.
And routines really fit into the need, like for eating. So eating really punctuates the day. You know, if you have regular meals and those meals are, you know, healthy and substantial, and they really start to segment the day. And if you start dropping the routine of the meals, that's when people start running into trouble around getting proper nutrition. It can be very easy to you know, well, I don't really need to, you know, eat this meal. I'm not really hungry anyway. And then their nutrition starts to fade. So people who with really good routines and the optimism, I just want to go back to optimism. I think it also seeing in long-term care facilities, I find people who are kind with other people, they really do fare much better in you know, because, you know, you become more dependent as you get older, and people who've been kind and you know, generous, yeah, I don't know, loving people, you can just tell that they've been like that their whole lives. And you know, when you're becoming more dependent, that becomes a real asset, I have to say. Because have you noticed that people who are like not, who are the opposite, I don't really want to describe it, but they resist care. It's very difficult to provide care for them, and I think that's a hugely important factor.
I think part of what you're saying too, that I've seen, is that when they give, oftentimes those are people also that are more accepting of taking, like you're saying, like when they become more dependent. And that kind of goes back to, as you get older, recognizing that you might need to ask for help. And that's something I think the Master of Health have, is that actually they said, okay, well, I can do these things, but now I'm going to source out the housework or housekeeping, even not more the thorough tasks like mopping are harder to do, or the landscaping that they didn't really enjoy is something they have to do. So recognizing we're on the priority list of what they want to do, and then being able to outsource the things that maybe they're finding too hard, they're taking up too much of their day, or that they can't do or just don't enjoy. And even going back to the eating piece, I think what I've seen in community is that people that don't eat well, sometimes it's because they don't have regular access to the grocery stores. So
absolutely,
finding out what community resources are available for somebody to do the shopping for you, to drive you to the store, or doing the online shopping, and starting that early before you really, really need it.
People fall into these patterns where they become like, they start you know, it's easy just to grab a piece of toast and tea, you know, for lunch, and we call those tea and toasters, and they might be really missing out as your nutritional needs increase and your appetite goes down. You do need to be focused, like laser focused in on getting good nutrition, which would include you know, a source of protein and at every meal, and making sure that you have a lot of fiber and a lot of fluid. And I think those are the real key parts of the nutrition, is making sure that, you know, you don't fall into routines that are not going to be getting you the things that you absolutely need. So
part of that too comes, Rachel, down to planning, right? Planning ahead what you're going to be eating, and not just when you're getting hungry, then look into the fridge to see what you have.
Yeah, that's just not going to work anymore.
A cognitive strategy, right? That you need to be more aware of. Okay, I need to plan ahead.
Yeah, you have to have a clear plan of what you're going to have for breakfast every day, and have it ready. Because if you plan to have eggs in the morning for breakfast as part of your healthy nutrition strategy, and you don't have eggs, or you don't have a way to cook the eggs, or what have you, then it's not going to work. You need to have that strategy. The last thing I wanted to touch on about the secrets of the masters is just like like really comes from that optimism place and is those good relationships with people, because eating is a very social thing, and we find that people who eat with others are able to do so much better in their nutrition. So that's a really key.
I think we'd see that in long-term care, right? We'd have, if a
Mhm.
family member comes in, all
Oh,
of a
yeah.
sudden that resident would eat their whole plate, whereas other times they might just pick at the food, or they go home for a family dinner and they're like, oh yeah, they eat so much when they come home. So like you're saying, the environment matters so much. So being aware of what environment you're eating in.
Yeah, and a
And part
supportive
of it is even being
relationship.
aware of your eating.
Oh yeah, and then those supportive relationships. I find that the masters that I've encountered in my outpatient is that I'll notice sometimes it like devolves into a counseling session when I'm working with couples, but oftentimes the people who are doing really well, I can see just so much love and support between the partnerships, like, and that might be between you and your spouse, or that might be between you and your adult child or grandchild, where the partner in care is just connected and attuned to each of the person's needs. So
and it's still keeping them involved. So maybe they can't cook the full meal,
yeah,
but adapting so that they can be involved in the meal. So even in long-term care, we had people making soup because they can still sit down and cut up something.
Being
with
involved in the
modifications.
cooking is good. So that's so secrets and masters. So I think we should really like make sure that we keep that in mind, that we see people doing so well, and so we know it can be done. So the next thing we wanted to talk about is like, what kind of steps do we need to take to to prepare for aging, and we want to protect your memory, your mobility, and your general health, really.
I think we touched on it already, like the physical health, the PGOSA's probably got on. Doing well with. And then there's also, so the physical piece, which is great for your brain as well, and then cognitive piece, like I say, not just about watching TV, but doing things that are still going to be cognitively challenging. I mean, if you're driving still, that's cognitively challenging in itself. But then the rest of the day, are you volunteering? So you're still having to problem solve. Are you doing puzzles? So you're having to, or there's even brain games all over the internet now that you can do as well. Things that maintain those connections that are going on in your brain. It's like they say, if you don't use it, you lose it. And we really do see that people that aren't, you can see the deterioration happen faster and the people aren't involved in things. So keeping involved.
From a nutritional standpoint, it's really important to have plans in place, like you said, like ordering food from a grocery store, setting up an account with setting up plans with friends or your relationship partners, and that sort of thing is, and to just organize your life and make decisions. And because we have to be aware that as we age, our nutritional requirements definitely go up, especially for protein, fluid, and what was the other one? What was the third one? Fiber. So we want to keep our bowels moving really well. We want to be making sure we have enough protein in our diet so that we don't lose our muscle mass. It's really important. And actually, you can eat a lot of protein, and if you don't have enough calories, you'll eat the protein away. So you'll use protein for calories. So you also need to have adequate nutrition as well. They're really important. And for the fall risks, steps to take might be to consider supplementation, or bumping up your sources of calcium and vitamin D, especially if you're finding yourself inside a lot, which, as as we get older, we might find ourselves inside more often. And
with these cold, rainy days or snowy days,
so those are some of the steps that you might want to take, from a nutritional standpoint, is to really take a good look at what you're getting in your diet. Okay, so warning signs to heed and when to reach out for help. Alanna?
So I think goes along with the nutrition. I mean, you can see how the whole mind-body connection is there. Like, you can't separate them. And part of it too is the emotional health, which you've touched on as well. So if you're isolated, if you're finding that you're not being in contact with other people, that's a risk factor. Just for sometimes it's a thing of, we would encourage home care to come in once a day, just as a daily check, just to see if there's anything going on, lays eyes on somebody. So if you're finding yourself for whatever reason, maybe change in your health status, that you're starting to withdraw from seeing other people, finding you're saying no to invites or not inviting the people that you usually would over, then that's a red flag. That's a yellow flag, I would say, to me.
Yeah, and from a nutritional standpoint, any symptom that gets in the way of eating. So like if your swallowing starts, if it gets harder to swallow pills or fluids, if it gets harder to, or you find that you're having symptoms like your bowels are not performing that you want them to do. So that could be diarrhea or constipation, things like that. Monitoring weight is also a good way to make sure that things are going okay. If you get sick and you don't eat a little bit less, if you eat less for a few days, that's usually okay. People bounce back from that. But if you find that you've gone like a week or more where you're just eating way less than you normally, it's time to reach out for help. And another thing is if you monitor your weight, it's time to reach out if you lose 5 pounds in a month, say, for example. So if you notice that, if it's like people kind of ebb and flow and they might lose 1 to 2 pounds and then regain it, and that's fine. We consider that a stable weight. But if you're noticing that you're if you've lost more than 5 pounds in a month, then you need to reach out and talk to a doctor, talk to a dietitian, and get a look at what your nutrition is looking like.
Yeah, and I see that oftentimes if somebody's like, if we have a dietitian OT both going into home, it's that their eating has changed, maybe they've lost a weight, and from my standpoint, often I see that their energy, they complain that they're tired all the time, their energy's gone down, they might be dizzy when they're moving around, they may be furniture walking, which is always a clear indication that maybe we need to look at your mobility a bit more. If you're holding onto the counters when you're walking, or the towel rack in the bathroom to sit down, that's when. And then all of this is prevention, right? So that we don't have a fall and have to deal with the repercussions of that, kind of being proactive in all of this.
Yeah, and another warning sign is if you're just finding you're eating the same thing without a lot of variety all the time. So you're always eating tea and toast, you always have a can of soup, and that's all you have. Then it might be time to reach out and figure out if there's something more that you can add to your diet as well.
And there's community resources that you can reach out to. So it's oftentimes that thing that people need to advocate for themselves. And that's when they start getting connected. And sometimes it's through us, right? And then we're like, oh, have you talked to this and this and this, different support options, but people don't know what's out there. And so they don't necessarily know where to start, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's definitely some services out there available. So actions you can do to master aging in place. So we wanted to be able to, send you off with some like clear actionable items, and we can talk more about these in the question period as well. I'm thinking with regards to nutrition, I think spending some time and just writing down everything you eat and drink for a day or two, just to take a kind of a look at what you're eating and ask yourself, is this really meeting my nutritional needs? And you want to make sure, like, again, you have good sources of protein, you have lots of fiber, lots of fluid in your diet. And if that's not happening, then you need to take action right away. You don't want to wait until your weight is going down or you're not eating well. You want to take an action right away and start adding variety to your diet and making sure that you have food in the house and it's good, healthy, nutritious food, and that your routines you're not missing meals as well. So these are some clear actions you can do right away to improve your nutrition. To make sure, and doing that diet history is a really good place to start. So just sit down, write down everything you eat as you eat it, and take a look. And of course, you can always talk to a dietitian about if it's meeting your nutritional needs as well. How about you, Alanna?
I was going to say the same thing about, I think an easy way to do it is write down a typical day, write down what you're doing in each chunk of the morning, what are you doing? Afternoon, what are you doing? And then after a day or two, like you're saying, review and say, is this matching up? Like, am I incorporating meaningful activities into my day every day. So sometimes what we see when people are struggling with, say, dressing, I remember there was somebody that knew that it would take 3 hours in the morning just to have their morning routine. And they want to do independently, but that was a cost to them because they didn't have time to do something that was important to them. So looking at that routine and saying, am I feeling fulfillment every day in what I'm doing? Or do I need to change something? Do I need to change the something about the environment? Do I need to change how I approach the task? Do I need to outsource? And that's when you can kind of see how you're managing. And if it's day to day is sometimes what people go through, but long term, start looking like, do I still want to be doing this routine 5 years from now where I'm not finding a lot of fulfillment in my life? Because that's when we see often depression creep in, right? If you're not finding fulfillment.
Yeah.
So,
and also, are you enjoying your food? You know, like, so making sure that you have food that you enjoy and that it fits into your routine, that you have a good routine around food as well. So,
yeah.
So it sounded like you guys wanted us to have a 20-minute presentation and that you wanted to leave lots of time for questions. And so the way that we can do questions and answers is you can drop things into the chat. And I see something in the chat already. It says, doctors don't always have the information on resources. Is a referral required to see a dietitian or an occupational therapist? Is it expensive? So no, you don't need a referral to see a dietitian privately. You might benefit from a referral to see a dietitian publicly. I do need to disclose that I both work for VHA and I work privately. So, you know, because I work for VHA, you can always ask me what services are available through VHA, and I'm going to be able to tell you what services VHA can offer you. And it is expensive to see a dietitian privately. Sometimes, though, you might have insurance plans that might help cover it, or Veterans Affairs might have a way of covering you to see a dietitian. And I'm not sure about occupational therapy. I have to let.
Yeah, that's the same thing. Depending on the plan, it can be covered under extended benefits or through Veterans Affairs. But it depends. I mean, you can go through always ask for your doctor's referral, but it's not needed for occupational therapy either.
For private occupational therapy.
Yeah, no, a referral is not needed. If you're wanting to go trying to go through the public system to get an occupational therapy assessment, then you can self-refer as well there too, though.
Okay. So you don't need you don't, well, and I do think you need a referral to see a dietitian through the public healthcare system now. But you can always call them and check. I think there's certain programs, if you fit certain criteria, like if you are trying to lose weight, they have a weight management program that's self-referred, things like that. But I mean, for a swallowing assessment, you will probably better off talking to your doctor about getting into something like that. Yes, Doug.
My wife is a home economist.
Okay.
She taught home
That's great.
economics in high school for many, many years. And she's always telling me that if somebody sets himself up as a dietitian, they maybe just have the perfect elixir that give me $100 and you're good to go.
Yes.
And there's a lot of that goes around. Is that?
Oh my goodness, Doug. It's just, it's hard to compete with because a lot of people can just put up a shingle and say that they know how to do nutrition. And, you know, a dietitian has a lot more training. They go to school and they learn about, you know, it's almost like a pre-med program where we learn about the biology behind the nutrition and the medical concerns that people might have. It's quite a bit different training than somebody who just thinks that they know about nutrition and puts up their shingle and, you know, starts selling this supplement or that supplement. Dietitians, you'll notice, are usually really food first focused. So that's the one big, you know, dietitians don't have a lot, they don't really gain their income from selling things. So if someone's selling you something, you know, like some sort of supplement or something like that, then that's a real red flag that they don't actually have much else to offer, you know? Yes. And you can just, there's a couple ways you can ask a question. You can throw it into the chat. I have the chat box open. You can put your hand up just like Doug did. And you can also use emoticons if you want to throw an emoticon up on your screen. I can see that as well. Or Alanna might be.
I have a question for Alanna, actually, about like items to help you in the home. Do you do that kind of thing as well? Do you like go in and talk to you know, people and see if they need like grab bars and poles
Yes.
and that kind of thing? Okay.
That's oftentimes what people know about occupational therapy, because if somebody needs, I mean, basic equipment, other professions can do, like physios and nurses can do basic equipment. But as an OT, I'm trained to look at the environment and the person's abilities and make a good fit to prevent falls in the home, keep them safe in the home, and also to keep them active in the home. So making sure that they can still do the things that they want to do. But yes, the raised toilet seats and grab bars are usually OT.
So if you get a referral from your doctor to an OT, that would be covered by VIHA then, right?
If you go through the community, yes, then it's fully covered.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. The thing is that like the services that you get from VIHA, they're limited, right? So, you know, you're going to get a little bit more personalized service and faster service if you go privately. I just want to put that out there. That can be important for some people. I just got a question. Alanna, did you want to speak about that?
Sorry, I didn't see the question.
Oh, yeah, it was just, I was mentioning about, can we contact Island Health directly? And I'm just looking up the number right now.
Oh, okay.
To put into the chat. But did you want to speak about what makes the private, like seeking out services privately, different than what you would get from Island Health?
So with Island Health, when you get a referral, it's a very specific referral that you're going in for. And I have to be careful. I mean, I don't work for Island Health, but I don't also want to throw them under the bus.
No, you can't. Yeah, no.
So it's important to know that they get a referral, and it's going to be a very clear-cut referral what they're in the home for. So it's not necessarily it's not a comprehensive assessment. It's very much a consultative approach. So it's like you're in, you're out, and kind of getting the basic needs for that point of time, and then providing resources. So privately, it's a different thing, because typically if you're like, oh, what about this? What about that? Then everything can be kind of covered under the same visit. I'm not just operating under like, oh, I'm just here for a grab bar. I can meet whatever the needs are that are related to occupational therapy. So
one thing
might not be clear
well, when
to some of you, but
I've used an occupational therapist for my son, and what I find is that, you know, they get to know your family, they get to know your needs over time. And whereas when you're working with the health authority, you get the occupational therapist who's available, right? So, and I think that's like with care getting from VIHA, that is kind of differentiates between what care I can provide through VIHA and what care I provide privately. I do provide additional services, like I'll do meal planning, I'll do more detailed nutritional assessment, whereas that isn't even possible in the VIHA. Now Sue has her hand up. Do you want to speak, Sue?
And you are muted, Sue, so you'll have to unmute or else put your question in the chat.
Hi. Well, I just wanted to tell you about an experience we have had with VIHA and through the community program, whatever it's called. Referral by a doctor. Very concerned. My mom is my 94-year-old mom in independent living is likely to have a fall very soon because she hadn't had a knee joint replacement in a timely way by her choice. And her leg is going to the side. She nearly falls a lot of times, and she prevents it with a cane. So far, she's presented it. So she was referred to VHA for occupational therapy assessment. I was looking to see what would be if a brace could help her and what would be best. We waited like months, many weeks. And I had to call, and there was just a mix up with everything, with the appointments or with the assessment. Eventually, somebody phoned me after I'd made several calls and said that they just are so swamped with calls. They're short-staffed, and it's very difficult to provide the services. I shouldn't have worded it that way, but trying to give the gist.
Yeah.
And then somebody phoned me to say that, well, we wouldn't be able to help much with the bracing in the long term, and they did a phone consult with me. The person who phoned me did a very good job of explaining everything, but there was no physical response in person in her home.
I'm sorry that unfortunately the public health care system is the way it is, that you didn't get the care that you needed at the time that you needed it. I know that could be hard for families, especially. That's really hard.
This was just a couple months ago that was kind of finalized, and that she wouldn't be having somebody come to her suite. But and I realized that it's of course pandemic related, how busy everybody is. But it was kind of like that before COVID ever came here.
It's true.
Mm-hmm. Our population is growing, and unfortunately our healthcare resources aren't keeping up. It's kind of the reality.
Yeah, it's really, yeah, my heart goes out to you, Sue. It breaks my heart to hear that that's happened. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and it's, yeah, it's unfortunate. Like your experience is not, unfortunately, it's not an isolated experience. It's happening a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I know.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like, far as a preventative thing, I mean, this whole talk is keeping yourself healthy, and there's such a need for that, to be your own advocate, like you were doing, like phoning repeatedly kind of thing, being an advocate for yourself and trying to keep yourself healthy. From my opinion, that's a very wise thing to do, is try to keep yourself healthy and do everything you can for your own self and for those who you love.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, it's our pleasure to come out into the community and talk to people. We don't do this very often. Yeah. But yeah, no, we're happy to help. Did anybody have any questions, like diet related questions?
I think Barb has a question.
Okay, great.
You answered my questions. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you talked about having protein at every meal.
Yes.
Do you find that, I don't know, like people in our age group are maybe less likely to be vegetarian or vegan, but like, how easy is it as a vegetarian or a vegan to actually get their complete protein?
Yeah, it's a little trickier. You know, protein's packaged up in, it's 20 amino acids all packaged up in different foods. So, you know, anything between eggs and meat and dairy, all of those are complete sources of protein. You're not going to be missing any amino acids. With vegetarian foods, it's not, I wouldn't even say, people are becoming so vegetarian literate these days that it's not even as much of a concern as it used to be back in the day, where people would basically just not eat meat. And that would be a problem. That would be problematic. But people include seeds and nuts, and they include lentils and beans and all sorts of alternate sources of protein are available, like tofu and tempeh and a wide range of alternative meats. So things have really changed in terms of the vegetarian scene, and I don't think it's definitely a totally viable thing to do. In fact, we really want people to go more plant-based now, especially with the variety of plant-based proteins out there. Plant-based is better for the environment and it's better for your health. You're going to get a lot more fiber in a plant-based diet, and that's really important in terms of your gut health. And yeah, so I think going more plant-based is a great plan. It is challenging though, like if you have kind of older styled eating habits where, nuts and seeds and lentils and beans and chickpeas are just not something that's kind of part of the diet, or falafel or bean burgers or things like that. If it's just not part of your eating routine, yes, it's going to be challenging. But as soon as you can incorporate all of those types of foods into the diet, then being a vegetarian is not a barrier to healthy, nutritious foods.
So, and like the Beyond Meat and those types of things, are they like they have the full range of amino acids that you need?
They don't.
Oh, okay.
They don't, but because people are often eating, you'll still eat things like bread and rice and other types of foods that contain protein. And a lot of times people don't just go totally vegetarian either. Like they'll have eggs or dairy, and that will meet your nutritional needs for protein for sure. It's just that variety is super important. If you're finding yourself that you only eat certain types of foods, or like a limited variety of different types of foods, then it would be really good to consult with a dietitian to make sure that you're getting enough. And so I do a nutritional assessment, so where I actually calculate what types of foods that you're eating, how much protein you're eating. I do a food frequency questionnaire with my clients and find out, are they eating 20% protein or 30% protein, and just try to make sure that they're getting enough, their adequate protein in their diet based on what they're actually eating now.
My daughter has hemochromatosis, and
Oh,
she
yeah.
has a really tough time getting her protein without getting all the extra iron that she doesn't need, that she can't have. So,
a lot of people might see part of it can be because people just think that they need a lot more protein than they actually do need. So sometimes that can be like a disconnect there, where they think that they need, 150 grams of protein, and that might not necessarily be true. So finding out what you actually need is also a good idea as well. Fluid is also like that as well. For young people who are drinking, reams and reams of fluid, it's great. It gives you lots of potty breaks, right? But you just need like 8 to 10 cups of fluid. For an older population, that is can be very tricky to get in all that fluid. But for younger people who are drinking reams and reams of fluid, it's just, there's this disconnect. So, there's this myth that you need to have 8 glasses of water, but you're actually getting fluid in everything. So you just need to get 8 cups of fluid in your day. Very, very challenging for older folk though. So Sue, I saw Sue had her hand up, but then she's still here. Okay, good.
Oh, and there's a question from Pat as well.
And there's a question.
Yeah.
So I'll just grab Pat here. When losing weight, does one lose muscle mass before fat? Yes and no. So losing weight means that you're going to lose water weight, you're going to lose muscle weight, you're going to lose adipose tissue, which is fat. You're going to do all of those at once. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be losing muscle mass before fat. That's not true. But there is always muscle mass lost when you're losing weight. So that's why we need to really carefully look at your situation. A lot of times people over 65, they still have the mentality that they want to lose the weight. But actually, as you get older, having a little extra weight on board is very protective. And that's what I've noticed with people, if they have something going on that causes them to lose a lot of weight because they can't eat for a period of time or can't eat well for a period of time, they bounce back because they had like kind of that reserve. So I don't know why I'm going there, but
I think
no,
we're all happy to hear that it's okay if we carry a few extra pounds.
absolutely. And that's why talking to someone who understands like what you actually need, because like what society tells us and what is actually true are sometimes quite different from one another. And so the question here was, are you ever requested to do dietary assessments for food provided to residents in care facilities? No, I have not been. Well, yes and no. So I have been asked to assess. Yes, I do actually. I have done that before. I have gone to care facilities and assessed their diet before. I do. I use a nutrient software and I put in their food, and then I figure out what they're missing for the residents. So Sue had a question. Oh, Sue, that was your question? And Doug has a question.
That was my question.
Okay.
But, where my mom is, the desserts are very, very rich cakes almost every day. The tea in the afternoon is very, very rich. Items. I've been there many times and seen this, and people in a higher age group, especially, there's more concerns about diabetes, etc. It really concerns me that this is happening in the residential care facilities.
Yeah, I go to these facilities and they'll ask me, they require their plans to be reviewed by a dietitian. So yes, I have gone in there, and oftentimes I'm just removing cakes and desserts and all sorts of things from their diet, because they'll do like, they'll need 2 snacks, and it's like cake, dessert in the morning, and then dessert in the evening, and dessert with dinner. And then so I'm like, okay, you guys get one dessert, like one of these high fat meals or like kind of rich meals, and then we fill the rest up with healthy, nutritious foods. So yes, it is a problem. It's really, I know it feels really powerless. That's the hard thing about seeing it happening before your very eyes. And in these institutions, you should bring it up though. Like you could talk to their dietitian and ask them, what could be done for your loved one.
So do the facilities have dietitians?
Absolutely. Yeah, they should either have their menus reviewed by a dietitian or have a dietitian on staff. Yes.
Thank you.
And Doug?
Yeah, that was the quote. Well, I get my hair cut downtown in Parksville, and right across the street, they're building this Berwick
Oh yeah,
complex.
I've seen it.
And it's 6 or 7 stories high, and it's right along the whole block. And the price per month to stay there is like $7,000.
Wow.
I'm wondering, do they get what they really need, or are they just getting a room where they stay and that's it? Do they get the food they need? Do they get all the other amenities that at that age group they need or should have?
I can't throw all long-term care facilities under the bus. Some do an amazing job with their diets. Like I've gone into care facilities, I'm like, you don't really need me. You're doing an amazing job. They just need me to document what they're doing well. And then some care facilities, it's just like, oh man, like I don't even know how to fix it. I don't even know where to start. So, I think it just goes, you need to interview and check out what they're actually eating, take a look at their menu. Their menu should be posted. And, you can just walk by, go and visit the center during meal times and see how meals are being prepared and provided. So, yeah, I mean, if you're going to spend that $7,000, certainly I won't be able to afford that kind of place when I'm older. So, you want to make sure that you're getting what you're paying for sure.
Yes.
So it sounds like I've got some comments here in here that Berwick Qualcomm is they have great choices there, and that it's included in the monthly costs. That's the comment that I've gotten. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
That's good. I heard that Berwick and Parksville was just apartments. I didn't hear that it was actually including meals, but it might just be a different model, or it might have some sections where there's meals included.
yeah, oftentimes those facilities have like different levels of care. Alanna, maybe can you describe that a little bit better?
Yeah, so I think the gardens, for example, in Qualicum Beach, they have, depending on the floor, it's a different level of care. So the top floor, I don't know if you're familiar with this, it's independent living, so you can actually purchase, from my understanding, the different departments on the top floor. The floor below that is assisted living, so you'd be having communal meals, and then the other floor is long-term care. So ideally, with these multi-level apartments, then you could stay in the same building as you transition from one level of care to the other, and so you might even have a spouse that might be on a different level, but then you would still be living in the same building.
Nice, Barb. I love it. Yeah, did anybody have any more questions?
Oh, I guess, well, you see both your phone numbers on the screen here, so you're open to people phoning you and going from there?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Alanna, like, how do you provide your services?
So I do teletherapy, so like this, Zoom, for some people that don't really want anybody in their homes, and they're more comfortable with that. And then that's why I'm in my car right now, is because I also provide mobile. So I go to people's homes.
That's excellent, yeah. I provide Zoom calls. I will come into a person's home if they are not able to come out of their home or not able to use the technology. I also have some spots on Thursdays in a shared office space. So I have some, I can meet most people's needs that way.
Do you have any online resources that you could suggest that we could refer to, perhaps, like some that are kind of like, dietitian or occupational therapist approved?
The first thing that comes to mind is just the SAIL exercises. So if you put in SAIL, S-A-I-L, then there's exercises that you can find that, depending on your level, you can see what you're comfortable with. Yeah, it's kind of more the broader kind of, it has to be generalized, obviously, if I'm just giving a resource to everybody. So SAIL exercises, I think, is the easiest way. But then just kind of looking for yourself, it's not a resource though. Yeah, just kind of self-reflecting, I think, is the other resource I would say.
Yeah, people are their own best experts. And when it comes to nutrition resources, like a really safe thing to do, because you're looking for nutritious, healthy meals and things like that, or recipes, is to go, honestly, a lot of people have really good knowledge around this. They know what what is healthy and what is not. Like, it's a lot of it's pretty obvious, right? Like, the cheeseburger versus like a healthy like salad with protein in it or something like that. But if you're looking for nutritional information and you just want to find free stuff, try to aim for things that are from organizations like the Diabetes of Canada, Dietitians of Canada. Eatright.org is an American dietetic association. They have lots of interesting things that you can look at. So it's called eatright.org. And the NIH over across the water, have really great resources. Have you ever noticed that, Alanna? The NIH, National Institute for Health. So, you can always go to the foundation. So if you have like a specific illness, like, Heart and Stroke Foundation, or, liver.
Alzheimer's. The Alzheimer's website is really good.
Exactly. And they almost always have like a nutrition section. So if you have a specific need, that they can be really great resources. I would aim for those. A lot of times, like even dietitians, they just post blogs that are not necessarily going to meet your needs. And it can get very, very confusing very, very fast if you just kind of randomly search the internet. So you want to be selective on what you're picking up from the internet. And so making a priority towards, more governmental organizations because they have your best interest in mind, right?
I agree. Yeah, that's exactly right, Rachel.
Yeah. I mean, that's the safest way to go. It can still be extremely confusing though, because, you think, okay, well, my doctor says I have kidney disease. Well, there is many levels of kidney disease, so most people they'll Google kidney disease and they'll be shown like diets are more appropriate for people with advanced stages of kidney disease. So that is a problem if you just Google search. And a lot of people really do like to just Google search because it's fast and it's easy and it's accessible. But unfortunately, that can be a huge source of confusion for a lot of people. So it's really good to get your and then talking to a dietitian can be very helpful because it can help really you make decisions that work for you in your life. A lot of times, you'll see say a meal plan, a free meal plan, and I give out free meal plans too on my website, but it's not necessarily going to be fitting what you specifically need because everybody's individual, right? So it's a good idea to talk to a dietitian. And are there dietary means to wean oneself from statins is a question. Now, statins are a drug that control cholesterol. So if you've been put onto a statin, this is a medication, and so you absolutely need to be talking to your doctor about how to address medications while you're on a statin, and what are the benefits to you, what are the risks, and then make an informed decision about what to do about being on a statin. This is the real question behind this is there a way to lower cholesterol with dietary? And that's yes, that is yes. But statins work with the dietary interventions. So your food and the statin, they work together. And so the statin brings down your cholesterol a little bit and your food brings down the cholesterol a little bit. Now, statins shouldn't be taken just alone. You actually should be working on the dietary measures as well. So they work together. Now, whether or not you can rely on dietary alone, that's a conversation you need to have with your doctor to see if it's safe to consider that. I think anybody who's on statins or wants to be off statins, they all need to be eating better. That doesn't mean you're not eating better, but they all benefit from the same intervention. So whether or not you're choosing to wean yourself off of statins, you still need to make some changes into the diet. So that would be, reducing dietary fat if it's really high, increasing soluble fiber, making sure that you're getting a lot of potassium if it's safe to do so, and that sort of thing. But these are all very individual dietary changes that need to be made. So,
well, is it fair to make the comment that your family doctor is not the best resource for a lot of this stuff?
Well, the thing is that we all have to work together as a team. We all bring our own lens, and Alanna can speak to this as well. We all bring our own lens to the problem. So I can't say, oh yeah, you're just going to change your diet and you won't need the statins or you won't need your insulin anymore or anything like that. I can't do that because I'm working with the doctor to provide a plan that's, more comprehensive. There's a lot more going on than just that can be solved by diet alone, but diet is also required to help with a lot of these things. Yeah.
I think the ideal for health is having an interdisciplinary team so that we all, and I've seen it before, working on a team where you have all the different professions and we all provide our perspectives, and it can be a beautiful thing because then you get that actual holistic healthcare model.
Yeah, I think it's great. And we want to be able to provide that to the community in a where the VHA's kind of got gaps, we want to provide that to our community here by providing it privately to people who want and need that extra care and attention. we can provide services a bit faster and more individualized, and we're not kind of constrained by the organization so much. I still work for VHA, and I'm more like open about like the limitations that you might find with VHA compared to, it's really good to get your doctor involved and access the services that you are entitled to, of course. But if you need more, you don't want to hesitate, and you can definitely get your needs met as well. You're not stuck to that model.
No more questions?
And
Any more
that's
questions?
great because it is 11 o'clock. So
Yeah.
There we go. For timing.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you for giving us the opportunity to meet. Alanna, I'm sorry, I did a lot of talking at the end. Did you want to?
No, I like listening to you. I always do. I always learn something.
Yeah, thank you, Alanna, for joining me. And Doug, thank you for inviting us and welcoming us into your group.
Well, thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
No problem.
And thank you for Shelley. She's the one that pulls the levers that makes it work. So
I'm the one
thank
that
you,
can
Shelley.
make you mute. So I'm going to just trim this recording a little bit, not going to do any editing, just make sure that the start is the start and the end is the end. And then I think we'll save it to YouTube and make the link available because it's some really great information. And this is exactly the kind of thing that our members need. So thank you
Perfect.
so much, both of you.
You're welcome. Back to work now for me.
Yeah. See you later, Alanna. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Bye.